잡아줄까? 하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, who's mine? Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토 스파. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
한국에 오면 먹어야죠.
먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
와, 꽤 넓어? 한강입니다, 여러분. 와.
Coming up on ARIRANG News. North Korea fired a number of cruise missiles off its east coast this morning for the 5th time this year. We take a look at the reasons behind the regime's repeated launches. South Korea's state-run think tank projects the country's economy to expand by 2.2% this year on the back of a strong recovery in exports led by semiconductors. But it expects weak consumer spending due to high interest rates. South Korean swimmer Hwang Sun-woo clinches gold in the men's 200-meter freestyle at the World Championships in Qatar, making him the third Korean to win that particular title. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on ARIRANG News. We start with yet another round of missile launches by North Korea. It fired a number of cruise missiles off its eastern coast this morning, marking the 5th time just this year. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung explains what's behind its launches.
North Korea has fired several cruise missiles off its eastern coast near the port city of Wonsan. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff detected the launch at around 9 a.m. Wednesday. Intelligence authorities in South Korea and the U.S. are conducting a detailed analysis. The military added that it has been closely coordinating with Washington to monitor additional signs of North Korean provocations. This is the regime's 5th cruise missile launch this year. North Korea has been dialing up tensions on the Korean peninsula with multiple firings of cruise missiles since January. On January 24th, it fired its new strategic cruise missile, the Bulhwasar 3-31. It then tested the same type of missile from a submarine 3 days later. In the same week, Pyongyang conducted 2 more rounds of tests with Hwasar-2 cruise missiles off its western coast. One expert says there are multiple reasons behind the regime's frequent firings of cruise missiles.
Firstly, North Korea is not barred by UN Security Council resolutions from launching cruise missiles. Secondly, the North could be using the launch to test Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo's missile defense systems. Third, North Korea could be intending to show that it takes the lead when it comes to military issues on the Korean peninsula, not South Korea and the U.S.
Some experts believe the latest launches could be intended to attract Russia's attention for potential exports. However, others say that scenario is far-fetched and instead believe North Korea is trying to develop conventional weapons to make efficient use of them during a war, as did Russia against Ukraine. Choi Min-jung, ARIRANG News.
And not just conventional threats, but the regime's cyber crimes are becoming more of a concern. South Korea's intel agency has spotted North Koreans who have been making illegal gambling sites and selling them to South Koreans. The money raised has then flowed into the Kim Jong-un regime. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jong-sil reports.
Some details of the North's mysterious Office 39 were brought out into the open on Wednesday. Limited is the name of a company that makes illegal gambling sites and sells them to South Korean cyber criminals. South Korea's National Intelligence Service said Wednesday that the company operates in Dandong City, China, and is under the supervision of Office 39, one of the mysterious organizations under the Workers' Party of Korea. Office 39 is known to raise and manage the money in leader Kim Jong-un's personal slush fund. In addition, the NIS released information on key members of the office. Kim Kwang-myung, 45, the leader of the operation, is a member of North Korea's Reconnaissance General Bureau in charge of actions against South Korea. He leads 15 members. Chung Ryu-sung, 39, is in charge of developing cyber gambling sites and ad ranking manipulation programs. And 28-year-old Chun Kwon-wook develops illegal gambling sites. The NIS stated that these individuals would make and sell various software such as that for gambling sites for adults and teens and were each sending $500 per person monthly to Pyongyang. They had stolen Chinese IDs and, pretending to be Chinese developers, looked for jobs online. This is because UN Security Council resolutions ban North Koreans from getting jobs overseas, as the money they earn can be used to further develop the regime's nuclear capabilities. South Korean cybercriminals were working with the North Koreans because the price was cheaper and they could communicate. Said this was concrete proof that North Korea is deeply involved in South Korea's rising criminal cyber gambling. The country's National Gambling Control Commission announced last year that revenue from illegal gambling in the country had increased by 20 trillion Korean won, or about $15 billion in just 3 years.
U.S. Special Envoy on North Korean human rights issues, Julie Turner, on Wednesday and is expected to issue a strong message to China and North Korea. She'll meet South Korean officials later this week, and Seoul's foreign ministry says her visit will serve as an opportunity to show the allies' commitment to improve the human rights situation in the regime. The visit was scheduled to mark the 10th anniversary of a United Nations report on human rights violations in the North. In 2014, the UN Commission of Inquiry released a report that found widespread and systematic human rights violations in the regime. Seoul and Tokyo say there currently are no plans for a bilateral leaders meeting next month, despite Japanese media speculation of a summit in March. Fuji News Network on Wednesday reported that Japanese Prime Minister of a Major League Baseball Seoul series in late March to meet with President Yoon Suk-yeol and possibly attend the MLB season opener together. President Yoon's office told reporters Wednesday that no plans for a possible visit are currently being pursued. Japan's Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi also denied the reports. However, he added that close bilateral talks will continue, describing South Korea as an important neighbor Japan must partner with on diverse global agendas. The two leaders held a total of 7 summits last year in active efforts to overcome their trade and diplomatic spat over issues concerning Japan's wartime atrocities. In Cairo, mediators have gathered to talk about a truce in Gaza, but did not arrive at a breakthrough. This comes amid Israel's offensive in Rafah as part of its war with Hamas. Park Gon-woo with the latest.
Talks on a Gaza truce involving the U.S., Egypt, Israel, and Qatar ended inconclusively in Cairo on Tuesday. According to Egypt's State Information Service, the negotiations were aimed at getting a truce in Gaza to protect civilians and delivering additional aid to the enclave. Citing a senior Egyptian official, AP reported mediators have achieved relatively significant to continue talks toward a permanent ceasefire. The Israeli delegation has reportedly left Cairo due to the pressure on reaching an agreement to end the war, according to U.S. media. However, the Egyptian official added the talks will continue for another 3 days. International concerns have been mounting, especially after scores of Palestinians were killed during recent airstrikes in Rafah, where more than half of the Gazan population are seeking shelter, despite countries, including the U.S., warning about prioritizing the evacuation of civilians before any attack. The United Nations aid chief, Martin Griffiths, warned on Tuesday that military attacks in Rafah could lead to a slaughter and put humanitarian efforts in Gaza at death's door. The UN Secretary General also spoke about the issue on the same day.
My sincere hope is that the negotiations for the release of hostages and some form of cessation of hostilities to be successful, to avoid a all-out offensive over Rafah.
Meanwhile, as of Wednesday, at least 28,400 Palestinians have been killed, while over 1,300 Israelis have been killed and over 1,200 injured since the war began on October 7th. Park Gon-woo, ARIRANG News.
South Korea's state-run think tank projects the country's economy to expand by 2.2% this year on the back of a strong recovery in exports led by semiconductors. But it also expects weak consumer spending due to high interest rates. Our Lee Soo-jin has more.
The Korea Development Institute has maintained its economic outlook estimate for this year at 2.2%. In its revised forecast published Wednesday, the South Korean state-run economic think tank kept its outlook unchanged from its November 2023 estimate. The KDI, which typically releases economic outlook comprehensive reports in May and November, also released 2 additional revised forecasts in February and August last year to reflect the rapidly changing economic conditions. November's economic growth estimate for 2024 at 2.2% was slightly lower than the 2.3% forecast in May and August. It has kept its estimate unchanged in this year's report as exports are expected to continue to see a recovery. Total exports were estimated to grow 4.7%, up from KDI's original forecast as the chip sector shows signs of improvement. Concerns about external factors are slightly mitigated as the International Monetary Fund last month raised economic outlooks for major economies from its previous estimate released in October last year. China's economic growth was adjusted upward on the back of government stimulus measures despite the ongoing real estate crisis in the country. And growth in the U.S. economy is expected to boost South Korea's exports. The IMF also upgraded its outlook for the world economy to 3.1%, pointing to a more resilient growth in the global economy this year. Domestic demand, however, continues to remain sluggish amid a recovery in exports and improvements in the global economy. For consumer inflation, the KDI revised downward its forecast slightly to 2.5% from 2.6%. And private spending, which was also adjusted downwards by 0.1%, is not a drastic improvement anytime soon.
The current sluggishness in private consumption is attributed to the persisting high interest rates, hindering immediate improvement. It's unlikely to expect a boost in private consumption this year as high interest rates are likely to continue.
And risk factors from geopolitical tensions in the Middle East that could lead to rising oil prices and trade disruptions might also weaken South Korea's economic growth. 이수진, 아리랑 뉴스.
President Yoon Suk-yeol has pledged to foreign investors to create a business environment reflecting or even going beyond global standards, along with tax incentives and support. This came as on Wednesday he hosted a luncheon with leaders of foreign companies investing in South Korea. Saying that non-Korean companies make up 21% of the nation's exports, he called the company's contributions remarkable. Acknowledging the investment from Korean companies overseas as well, Yoon also said he hopes for a synergy effect that'll contribute
remedy the EU's concerns in both passenger and cargo services. In passenger flights, rival airline TY allow between Incheon and Barcelona, Paris, Frankfurt, and Rome. These 4 air routes overlap with Asiana. Also, Korean Air will divest Asiana's global cargo business. The air industry forecasts that the divestment will take place no later. The Commission said Korean Air can only implement the merger on Asiana upon full compliance with these remedies. The industry expects that the Commission's in-depth investigation for these approval will mark as a milestone for future mergers involving other airlines. As the approval from the US is still left to be done, Korean Air plans to finalize its merger procedure as soon as possible. If the US approves, Korean Air is expected to rank within the top 15 in the passenger services and within the top 10 in the cargo services globally. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, in the US, inflation accelerated 3.1% on-year in January, faster than earlier forecasts amid higher housing expenses. Lee Eun-jin has more on this finding and its broader implications.
The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported on Tuesday that the U.S. Consumer Price Index, a broad-based measure of the prices shoppers face for goods and services across the economy, increased 3.1% on year in January, which was above the market expectation of 2.9%. On month, inflation fell 0.3 percentage points from December's reading of 3.4%, which is much slower than expected. Excluding volatile food and energy prices, so-called core CPI, from a year ago, unchanged from December. Shelter prices contributed mainly to the increase, with the index rising 6% on year. Taking up about one-third of the CPI weighing, the index for shelter prices climbed 0.6% on the month. On a 12-month basis, shelter costs rose 6%. After closing at a new record high on Friday, the S&P 500 inched down 0.1% on Monday. And after the CPI inflation data was released, the S&P 500 fell sharply in Tuesday's stock market action, sliding a further 1.3%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average sank more than 520 points, or 1.4%, on Tuesday, its worst one-day percentage decline since March 22, 2023. And the Nasdaq Composite fell 1.8%. Still, the big three indexes were trading higher on year. Fed officially because they expect.
As a result, Korean Air needs to remedy the EU's concerns in both passenger and cargo services. In passenger flights,
ARIRANG News.
And on the local front, South Korea plans to bolster emerging industries, including quantum computing and urban air mobility, also known as flying taxis. The country aims to initiate quantum computing-based cloud services later this year. Our business correspondent Shin-Young reports.
South Korea will launch a cloud service utilizing domestically developed quantum computers in the latter half of this year. That's according to plans to foster new growth industries, which were announced during an emergency economic meeting hosted by Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok on Wednesday.
The government will work towards creating tangible results in new growth industries, including mobility and biotech, which can serve as future pillars of our economy.
It will do so by launching cloud services using Korean-developed 20-qubit quantum computers. The plan includes developing related technologies to secure a 50-qubit quantum computing system by 2026 and a 1,000-qubit system by 2032. The higher the qubit count, the faster the to take a step closer to achieving its goal of commercializing urban air mobility by 2025, the government is pushing to begin flight tickets. It plans to provide tailored regulatory exemptions. Ongoing efforts are being made to establish an institutional framework, including safety standards, to achieve the commercial in 2027. The government has also pledged to further support key industries such as chips, displays, batteries, and shipbuilding. It is also expanding tax incentives for semiconductor-related technologies. Shin-Young, ARIRANG News.
In sports, South Korean swimmer Hwang Sun-woo clinches gold in the men's 200-meter freestyle at the World Championships in Qatar, making him the third Korean to win that particular title. Lee Seung-jae has the highlights.
South Korean swimmer Hwang Sun-woo claimed the top podium spot on Tuesday after winning gold in the men's 200-meter freestyle event at the World Championships in Qatar. In the race at the Aspire Dome in Doha, Hwang finished in 1 minute 44.75 seconds ahead of Danas Rapsis of Lithuania and Luke Hobson of the United States. Hwang had the quickest reaction time off the blocks with 0.62 seconds and was ahead until the 150-meter mark when Hobson took the lead from the South Korean. Hwang, however, took over in the final stretch, passing Hobson in the final seconds to win his first career world title. His latest gold medal finish makes him the first South Korean to win a medal at 3 straight swimming world championships, as he won silver in the 200-meter freestyle 2 years ago and followed that up with a bronze last year. Hwang's medal was South Korea's 4th in Doha, the most the country has won at a single world championship. On Monday, Kim Woo-min won gold at the men's 400-meter freestyle, while South Korea picked up 2 bronze medals in diving. Hwang will now compete in the men's 100-meter freestyle event and the 4x200-meter freestyle relay with hopes of more medals in Doha. 이승재, 아리랑 뉴스.
Today, it felt like spring had already come around. Many places recorded their highest temperatures ever in February. Daytime temperature in Seoul rose to about 17 degrees Celsius, which is 12 degrees above the previous years. Looking at the temperatures alone, they are similar to spring weather normally seen in early April. However, this spring-like weather will make a pause as it rains all over the country tomorrow. Starting from the Seoul metropolitan area and Yeongseok, Gangwon-do province at dawn, rainfall will gradually expand to other regions. There is snow forecast in Gangwon-do province on the east coast and for mountainous areas where temperatures are still low. Heavy snow of more than 15 centimeters is expected in the mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province. Extra caution is necessary. Tomorrow, Daejeon, Gwangju, and Daegu will start off at 10 degrees. Daily highs will be topping out at 11 in Gwangju, 16 in Busan. After the rain and snow stop tomorrow, temperatures will drop sharply again. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. Well, that is all for this newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 10 p.m. with the AI headline news. Take care.